So,
Okay.
my name is Jessica. I run AllStar Myofascial Release out in Farmersville, and we're actually going to remember the business name this time. I'm here with one of my clients and quickly becoming friends. And yeah, we're already blanking. Cool. Um, but I'm going to let her introduce herself, kind of give us an idea of what she does, because she's also a horse person. And yeah, we're going to go from there.
Okay. So my name is Martha, and I started seeing Jessica really for prevention. I just retired after 45 years, primarily a desk job. I did drive a lot too, but lots of sedentary stuff, and I had some chronic pain problems. And as soon as I retired, I thought, well, probably a good idea to go through and stretch out the body and try to learn how I can prevent all these new problems popping up so I can enjoy my life. And as Jessica said, enjoy my horse life as well, because that's one of the passions and what I really would like to do. One of the things I'd really like to do in retirement is spend more time with horses. So a horse friend recommended Jessica to me. So that's how we got hooked up. I actually live about an hour from here, but my horse is near Jessica, so the location was a little better than it would be for most people. Thankfully, she doesn't live an hour away from everyone.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. What was your main complaints with riding when you started with me?
so writing, I don't really have any nothing really stopped me from writing,
Okay.
but if I had a rough ride, wasn't with the horse, hadn't been exercising, shall we say, usually some back pain would creep in. I had a knee procedure in December,
Right.
and I was recovering from that. And I just had like the last few twinges that just wouldn't go away. And I thought, well, I can't ask Jessica to do anything about that because it was PRP, plasma rich platelets, I think is what it's called. But anyway, it has to heal. And so I thought, well, don't mess with it, right? Well, I told Jessica about it, and one of the things I like about what she does is it's very gentle. And so she gently, looked at my knee, looked at the surrounding areas, did some gentle work on it, and then used some tape on it.
Mhm.
And that was a month or so ago, and it was like magic. It just went away, and it's been fine since then. So I don't really have any other problems with writing. Thank you very much.
Of course, that's what we do. So, um, your main reasons for kind of trying to seek out MFR was kind of for the knee, kind of for the low back, more preventative, and then your feet.
Yeah, so my feet is the biggest challenge. I've had chronic pain on my feet for 13, 14 years, been through 20 doctors. I'm not kidding, it's been 20 doctors. And everybody agrees that I have metatarsalgia, which all that really means is pain in the metatarsal areas. But it's connected. Through that experience, I learned about fascia and how it connects everything throughout the whole body. It's just as important, if maybe not more so, than the nervous system. And but I didn't really know how it could help me. So I worked on my feet only, not realizing that the fascia, it's the whole body that gets into the act. So I did foot exercises and all that. And I really just basically negotiated around what caused pain, like standing too long, like more than a minute, and just stopped doing it. Well, through that process, my humble opinion is everything else starts atrophying, especially if you're older. It just starts atrophying. You start using your muscles. You're not on your feet very much. You're not walking, and then other stuff started cropping up, like my knee and my back, and I forget what else now. But there were quite a number of things. And I told Jessica, well, that would be the top of, or that would be the biggest challenge, but I'm not really expecting you to help me with my feet because no one else has been able to. So why should you? I would just like you to help me with everything else so I can enjoy the rest of my life here, with horses. And Jessica's attitude was challenge accepted. So the end result, or not end result, because it's an ongoing process, but she has actually given me some stamina back in my feet, uh, which is just absolutely amazing. I can stand longer. It'll take me a while because it took me a while to get here. So it's going to take me a while to see how far I can go with this. But I am understandably immensely grateful for starting this process. And the only really way you're going to know if it's for you or not is for you to do it, right? I mean, that's really the only way. I can't sit here and say it's going to work for everybody. Although I would tend to say that.
I can't even sit here and say it's going to work for everybody. So
yeah,
it definitely has its moments where there's other factors involved that it just, some people it's a great fit for, and others it's not so much a great fit for. But sometimes you got to get in and try it and see what happens.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad I did.
I'm glad you did too. Martha actually called me initially, I think in like October or November.
yeah.
And I think we were on the phone for like an hour that first time.
Yeah.
And she's given me all of her things and given me the feet thing. The feet thing was the thing that always kept coming up. And I was like, it's fine. We can fix that. It'll be fine. And she's like, no, I don't know. It's, been so long and I've seen so many people. And I was like, I don't know. And then I think she touched base with me again in November. And then again in December. And then I think January she touched base with me again. And I think that's when she was telling me that with the PRP, she wasn't sure if she wanted to try to do MFR right after the PRP while that stuff was still healing. And I explained to her that, she could do MFR and still let the PRP heal and get what she needed out of the MFR. And it would give her a jump start on it too. So yeah, because you were not convinced at all that I was going to be able to help you with your feet.
No, I was polite. I didn't argue with her, but I was like, well, I've been through the gamut, so I don't know how you can. So, and that's a good example of, never say never. It is hard when you have chronic pain to keep going and keep looking for options, but it can be so draining on your life. It can rob you of energy. It can, rob you of your passions. So I'm really glad that I stayed open instead of, nope, you can't help me there.
No. It's like, wait a minute, you think you're going to do what now? So first session, full honesty. What were your first thoughts when you first started MFR?
Full honesty?
Oh yeah.
Really? Okay.
If you think I was absolutely off my rocker, you are welcome to tell me.
I did. Well, when I met Jessica, because I hadn't met her before, I thought, as you can tell, she's young and beautiful, but she looks very young. And I thought, how is she going to help me with my aging issues? Of course, I'm not convinced it's age, but that's where it's, amplifying. And I thought, what kind of experience can she have, and how long has she been doing this? And I'm delighted to say that she's had, well, I shouldn't say delighted. I'm sorry that she's been through her own stuff in life and her own accidents and her own pain journey. So she does have quite a bit of experience and understanding and patience. One of the funniest things, especially when we're talking about my feet, she was asking questions about on up my leg and then wanted to focus on my hips. And I'm like, well, nobody's ever done that before. If you go to some medical professionals, they will try to kind of address the whole body. But in this case, that seems to have really helped. It's trying to strengthen the hips. Who knew I had weak hips? Well, it makes sense because I had a sit down job in front of the computer, long hours driving. Um, and she gave me some very easy exercises to do that really seemed to be strengthening my hips. And Viola, my feet are getting more stronger too. So I
I
was really surprised about that.
think you're the first person that's described my exercises as easy.
Oh, well, um, yeah. And the other thing I thought was so interesting, that kind of carried with the rest of the body too. If I told her, well, I'm having problems with this part of my body, she would look around and address where she thought the culprit could be another part of my body, putting strain on where the pain was showing up. And that ended up to be successful time and time again. It was amazing. And it's amazing to me that with such gentle pressure, my muscle memory didn't immediately take over from some chronic issues, that it really seemed to dissipate for good, which I still am having trouble digesting that, but it's turned out to be part of the results um, of that. So
Mhm.
that's been pretty amazing as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you start getting the actual key to the issues going on underneath. It actually sticks better versus just, throwing stuff at it and hoping it sticks.
Well, I never thought about that.
Mm.
And the more thorough you are, the less topical it is. And then your muscle memory has a chance to relax and say, oh, this is much better.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
that is good. Um,
So was between the first session and then the first few sessions, was it what you expected?
oh,
Was
no,
the techniques, was it what you were expecting from myofascial release?
not at all. Not at all. I was expecting something a little bit more aggressive, because if it's not aggressive, how is it going to help? Right. That was my thinking.
That's right. You kept you kept telling me that you were concerned about it being too much and that you'd have to tell me to lighten up pressure. I forgot about that.
Yeah. On the knee.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Because on the knee procedure, I was concerned about too much pressure and it getting in the way of healing, which turned out to be incorrect. And I'm glad that Jessica knew better. But the gentleness of it is was surprising to me, that it was so effective after being so, for being so gentle.
Mm-hmm.
And in past experiences, when I've had more aggressive treatment, it was kind of interesting, because if you're waiting for the person to inflict pain on you one more time, your body's kind of tensed up. And, you know, now that I understand, that kind of makes it difficult for you to get to the healing and get to the relaxation. Because when I said that I'm looking for prevention, I did recognize that a lot of my issues are because of stress, tenseness. It's the tenseness and the muscles just getting in knots. And I guess the fascia and the ligaments and everything else get into the, join the party.
Oh yeah.
And then if it's allowed to go too long, like mine, it's harder for you to release all that on your own and keep it released so you can be flexible and move around and
Mm-hmm.
all of that. So, and I even had, oh, this was another one on top of my feet. I started clenching my jaw at night, and just, grinding my teeth and everything else. And the dentist really couldn't even do anything about it except tell me to get night guards. But this has been an ongoing problem and long term. And Jessica even helped me with that. One time is the only time that she addressed it. It's not like she works on the same issue every single time. If she works deep enough, that seems to really heal it and enable me to go forward. And I'm sleeping better now. I don't know if that's the reason, but
It helps when you're not like clenching and trying to fight for your life in your sleep.
yes, yes. Well, that's kind of what it is.
Hmm.
It's that fight or flight, even though I wasn't really saving lives, I was just working and stressing out. And
You've got a couple things to stress out about, so
yeah,
um Did you notice changes as quickly as you thought you were going to? Did they take longer or shorter than you were expecting?
Well, the first session, I was blown away, quite honestly, because I was expecting kind of like what I was talking about before. You did help me. I mean, just the gentle touch and the right way and the long, the way you did it and your knowledge of anatomy. Um, I felt immediate relief in several places the very first session.
Mm-hmm.
And then I didn't say anything out loud because I didn't want to be rude. But I thought, well, as soon as I get in my car and drive the hour home, they'll all just be right back where I started. So this will be an interesting journey to go on. And then the next session, and it was interesting how many questions you had to ask me to help me remember what was hurting the time before. Because if it wasn't hurting, it just kind of left my mind. Yes, exactly.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah. So, and then, we addressed whatever the next session, or if there wasn't anything in particular, you could also see some tightness that I couldn't feel.
Mm-hmm.
I would do a body scan. Okay, no pain today. And then,
right here.
yeah. Oh, yeah, that doesn't feel so good. What are you doing to me? No, just kidding. And then you would kind of work on that. And even if I wasn't in pain, you kind of releasing the tension. Mm-hmm. I always feel better leaving here than when I came.
Yep.
So,
yeah, that's usually the goal. That doesn't always work like that, but that's usually the goal.
It's like, well, and everybody's different too, right?
So, oh yeah, especially depending on how much trauma you've had, like physical trauma, emotional trauma, all that plays into, what you experience directly after a session. Yeah, there's the reason I tell people that, they might want to cuss me up one way and down the other after they leave because, sometimes everything just flares up and goes sideways and then,
yeah,
have to sit back and go, okay, your body's trying to release, I promise. That's all it is. Is there anything that you would have wanted to know? Like, is there anything that in our kind of like intake process over the, 3 or 4 months that we talked off and on, is there anything that you would have wanted to know that I either didn't cover or maybe didn't explain well enough to you where you felt more comfortable with like making that decision of this is what you were doing?
I don't think so. I don't remember our conversations, in months prior to me saying, okay, let's do this. Let's get on the schedule. I think really it was you do have a very good way of articulating things and very clear, which I appreciate because I don't always have that gift. Even when you're explaining the exercises, it was very short, to the point, clear, concise. I think really the initial start was I needed to be open. When I was trying to, excuse me, I was trying to not to have expectations myself. Mm-hmm. And as it turned out, I had a lot of expectations. Well, who doesn't? Right from the experience you've been through, from the pain that you've experienced, if you have experienced any pain, and what you've learned along the way. Mm-hmm. So I certainly did have a lot of opinions coming into it. And at first, the first session 2 or 3, I had to really tell myself, okay, I don't really know about, I can't even remember what I was questioning. Well, the feet, number one, just shut up and let's put one foot in front of the other and let's just see what happens. I remember mulling that over time and time again. Let's just see what happens. Let's see where this goes. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how you feel, but I would say that it can't hurt. I mean, it's so gentle. I don't know anything that I've experienced for somebody to try it, because a lot of times with my feet, I'm worried about somebody making them worse. The last podiatrist did the best that she could, but I tried some things that she offered and it set me back about 6 months. Yeah. So I didn't really want to go there again, but I also don't want to be in pain, the rest of my time on earth. So,
Well, that's the downfall to our medical system. We have specialists for everything. So the foot specialist looks at your feet. They don't look at the hips, the quads, the back, the neck and shoulders. They don't look at that. Your back pain specialists, they look at your back.
mm-hmm.
They don't consider your feet, your neck, your jaw, or anything else. Which is why when we do myofascial release, we get the entire body involved, because there's always something somewhere that's playing a part. And that's what makes it so effective.
And literally, though, I mean, I've heard lots of people say, well, we adjust the whole body, but what that's meant in my experience is that, okay, your wrist is hurting, we're addressing the arm.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't been, you're the first one that has really addressed the entire body. And bonus for me, we get to talk about how it affects riding.
Yeah.
And how it can help riding. And horses, tenseness and horses don't go together very well. So I'm sure if my horse could talk, she would say thank you also.
Yeah, it's amazing how much our horses feel our tension.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, our horses tend to mimic that tension. So if you're tight in your shoulders, your horses typically tighten the shoulders. So strange even to me, but it's really neat to see it happen like that.
Yeah. And how often do we blame our horses? Well, you're just too tense in your shoulder. What is wrong with you?
I saw a friend of mine last week before last. She's a massage therapist that works on my horses. And I went and saw her for me just for grins and giggles because I didn't have anything else to do that day. And we were actually discussing like how often she sees her people clients come in with this, issues that their horses have, because she'll work on the person, then she'll work on the horse. And I was like, we had it was a couple years ago, but my gelding was always going to, it's my right high hip. So my gelding was always going to the left constantly. We spent weeks going to the left, constantly having to correct him. And this horse is a saint. Like, he never does anything wrong. And I finally sat back and was like, okay. Went to my chiropractor. He went through, adjusted my hips, got everything balanced back out. And suddenly my horse goes straight again. And I'm like, okay. That was my first introduction to how we affect our horses. Even though we think we're riding balanced, when everything else is wonky, we're really not.
That was something else that was surprising to me. As intelligent as we all are, and you do like a body scan, shouldn't you know where your own body parts, are? Shouldn't you know if they're tense? Shouldn't you know? I don't know if over time you just get used to the place that you're in until something speaks up, like in my case, and says, hey, this really hurts. You need to attend to me right now,
Mm-hmm.
or something like that. But then the rest seems like it was kind of rolling along until there was a little hiccup in the road, and then it became a bigger problem.
Yeah, that's what most of us do. We put it on the back burner and, it'll get better eventually.
Yeah.
And then 8 months down the road, it's flared up into something that can't just be fixed by taking some ibuprofen or massaging it real quick.
Yeah. In my case, the breaker is the well, what do you mean I can't ride my horse today? What?
Yeah.
We need to get something done about this,
Uh-huh.
The other piece that was really surprising was the nutrition piece that you offer.
Yeah.
I have more opinions about nutrition than I do from my pain management, because I've been interested in that my whole life.
Right.
And you had some different ideas than I was used to. And again, I was like, well, let's see where this goes. let's see how it affects my body and how I feel. And I didn't really understand you were asking me to avoid some things that have always been my go-to for health and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I won't say I've been perfectly following the plan, but I've been doing my best. And I would say 80, 85%,
Mm-hmm.
Um, my digestive issues have, not to get too detailed, but they are, I would say, 90% better. Just the change in diet. And, the couple other things we talked about. And I wouldn't even begin to try to explain what's out on the market when you purchase food versus local markets. But I have been buying more from local sources and things like that. Number one, it's pretty fun, and you get an education on what goes into what you're eating.
Mm-hmm.
And that seems to have helped too. And not everything's organic, but if it's locally grown, it stands to reason that, they don't have to prep it for shipping across the world or across the country.
Yeah.
With all the additives that may entail. I'll say may because I don't know for sure. But yeah, and
Yeah, they have more control over what goes into the animal versus, and the living conditions are massively different too. Yeah.
well, I hadn't thought about that. And as one told me, he's raising his family, and he's partly doing this to make sure that his children get safe food,
Mm-hmm.
get food that is actually nutritious and actually safe, and not all those unknown chemicals and preservatives and everything else that we hear so much about.
Yeah. I think that's most farmers, honestly. They
Yeah.
want their food source, to be clean for their family, and they want it to be clean for other people's families.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely a more wholesome family approach to why they're raising their own food,
Mm-hmm.
which makes it nice because, you're not like, well, won't go too in depth, but you get the higher ups in the government who they won't touch half of the food that Walmart has.
Mm-hmm.
They go and they get the farm stuff or the stuff that's on the healthier side. Where at least when we're working with people who are local or people who are raising their own food, that they're eating that same food that they're providing to everybody else.
That's true. Yeah.
They don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about, oh, you're not willing to eat that. Maybe I shouldn't eat that either. You don't have that problem with them.
Very true.
So,
I've never gone into a grocery store and asked an employee, "Hey, are you eating this stuff?" Actually, I did with watermelons this year because they were all, I couldn't find a good one in the grocery store. And they're like, "I'm not eating it. It's not good." Okay. Thank you for your honesty.
uh-huh. Yep. I mean, honestly, even I feel like most of the store employees probably don't even know what's going on with all of the food.
Could be.
Um,
Unless you're interested, why would you educate yourself?
yeah.
I mean, you hear it on the news now, Americans eat a less than desirable diet, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But unless you're really interested in it and seek out the information, how would you know the truth?
Yeah. And even then, there's so many different branches to what the truth actually is.
Mm-hmm. Well, nutrition is so varied.
Mm-hmm.
Did I just interrupt you?
No, you're fine.
Okay. It's so varied that, I learned through hospital visits with family medical issues that, they have a new suggested food pyramid. And then depending on what source you go to, you get it's not like people are offering similar advice. You get vastly different, and then there's also the, should you eat meat? Should you eat vegan? Should you be a vegetarian? Should you do this? Should you do that?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, what I finally, instead of just being overwhelmed, the path I finally chose is the path and really paying attention to how it makes my body feel. Not only 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, but over time, give it, a few months or whatever. to see how it's really affecting me. And I'm crediting it with some of my digestive healing, some of the things that you suggested.
Well, you noticed pretty quick just upping protein that your energy levels started to come up too.
True, I've forgotten about that because I'm not going to say what I was doing because I don't want to offend anyone. But let's just say my protein intake was way down, especially in the meat and poultry and seafood department. And you were suggesting to raise my protein level to a level that I had never considered before. And so it's increased. It's not exactly, I think I've hit that goal once, but I've drastically increased, and my awareness of how much protein I am eating. And the afternoons, which are typically my slump energy wise, I noticed just one day that I had energy. I felt like doing this and that. And I'm like, what's different? Oh, it's just an anomaly one day. But then that went on for a couple, 3 weeks. And it's the only thing I knew that I was doing different.
And that's not even hitting your protein goal. That's just raising your protein goal.
Yes. Their intake, yes.
And you didn't even realize, like, before we started working together, you didn't realize just how little protein you were actually taking in.
No, I didn't, because who really likes to do a food diary? Now, I'm doing it now because I know that it works and it helps you with awareness. It really does, because I'm not good enough to remember exactly what I ate and am I really getting a well-balanced diet and all that kind of stuff. I generally know what I don't want to eat if I've eaten any of that kind of stuff, but it's hard to keep up. It's time intensive, but my goal is to keep it up for, let's just say, 30 days, or till I'm somewhat in the habit of it, and then that increases awareness, and then I won't have to do it for the rest of my life. You know. But you're right. That was alarming. I thought, oh, I'm a healthy eater because I eat lots of veggies and I eat this and that, and I stay away from the stuff that's bad for me. But the protein was super low.
Yeah.
And my husband, the doctors have actually told him to heal from what he's been through, he has to take more protein in, because that's how your muscles repair themselves.
It's part of also why you made such good progress with all of your aches and pains and everything, because you were actually giving your body the proper nutrition to be able to rebuild and strengthen the tissue.
I hadn't quite made that connection yet. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I just knew it was working. Yay!
Yeah. And that's why I run this program the way that I do, is because you need proper nutrition to be able to rebuild tissue and to be able to heal tissue. And if you're not giving your body the energy and the nutrients that it needs to heal, you're either going to way slow things down, or you're just not going to make any progress at all. And, there are actual studies that have been done to show, okay, you put this person on this diet, they healed, 2-3 weeks faster than this person who just ate processed foods the whole time. So it's really neat seeing how it all intertwines and plays together.
Yeah. Well, it totally makes sense. I mean, I always looked at my eating as separate, but it's really not. And it's the fuel that feeds every part of your body. So of course it's important.
Was there anything that you learned that you didn't think you'd learned?
Oh, yes.
All the things.
All the things. Yes. Well, it made sense to me. I was surprised that the whole myofascial focus and information, it really hadn't been around that long. Maybe what, 10, 15 years, something like that?
Yeah.
And people really haven't paid that much attention to it. But I think people are starting now with the plantar fasciitis. So many people have that. So many people. I did not, but I had my own issues. But mine, I knew, was attached to the fascia. Yeah. When the fascia, just tightens up, it puts a strain on everything, the muscles, the joints. probably the nervous system, I'm guessing, everything. And so it stood to reason. The reason I kind of thought about prevention, it stood to reason if I want to stay as healthy as I can, I'm going to need to free up my body and become more flexible,
Mhm.
or I'm just going to keep having these problems over and over again. And that hasn't been much fun,
No.
you know? So that was very interesting that it was so new. It was new to me, but I just thought, well, because I just haven't stumbled across it yet, you know?
Yeah.
And how come my doctor didn't tell me about this, you know?
Had a client that came in beginning of the year. I think it was maybe last year. And she got so mad after like the first 3 or 4 sessions at her doctor because she went back to her doctor and was like, I've been doing this myofascial release thing and it's really been helping my neck. And he goes, oh yeah, that helps. She goes, you didn't tell me about this? She came in, she was so mad one day. She was hot. And she's like, I can't believe my doctor wouldn't tell me about this. He knew about this the whole time. Like,
I had a similar
no.
experience. The doctors, and I usually will, if I'm seeing them, I'll circle back around and let them know what's been working for me in case it might help one of their patients,
Yep.
right? And most of them are very open and they do the best with their skill set and their experience.
Mhm.
If they haven't had an occasion to learn about this or experience it themselves, you know, they're doing the best that they can do, right? But it is interesting, and they have to take, I mean, I'm sure they do continuing education and all that, you know. I would strongly recommend, I try not to push my opinions on others, but you know, when you find something you're excited about that's helped you, you want to share it, right?
Yeah.
Anybody facing surgery, you do have options. You don't have to just, I'm sure sometimes you have to have the surgery, but
Mhm.
in my experience or my feeling, I would definitely address the fascia with you first
Yeah.
to see if it could at the very least be relieved, whatever the problem is, before I just rush into surgery. And then there's so many other options out there, pre-surgery or instead of surgery, depending on what it is, of course,
Yeah.
you know, um, that people have access to these days. So I just wish insurance covered everything, but it doesn't. But they're getting closer. They're
Yeah.
getting a little by little. So
Yeah, and it depends on where you're at too.
yes.
Some states are some states are a little bit more lenient with the more natural side of things. That's why my doctor moved to freaking Virginia instead of staying in Texas. I know. But yeah, it's there's definitely options out there. And just because you've explored what you feel like is all the options. Myofascial release is such a small percentage of anything that anybody talks about. And usually when people are talking about myofascial release, they hear about Erasti or the scraping techniques, like the Graston techniques, which are all very rough, very painful methods of myofascial release. Um, but it it works to a point. But even my clients that come in for that have had a Rosti are still, it didn't stick. It was painful. I was in pain the whole time. The point where your client comes in and tells you that they've had a Rosti, so they took Oxycontin before coming to see you
Oh my gosh, really?
because they knew it was going to be painful. And I'm sitting there going, I can't work on you. You shouldn't have even driven here, but I can't even work on you. Um, you shouldn't, if it's that painful, you shouldn't have to take painkillers to be able to heal.
That never occurred to me.
Um, and again, that's part of why I love this work so much because it is so gentle and so slow. There is zero risk of injury. Um, it's not even compared to chiropractic, which is still deemed very safe. And I do have chiropractors that I refer to, so I have no problem with chiropractic. But there is still some risk of injury when they're making adjustments.
Mm-hmm.
Where this, Doesn't matter how sore you feel afterwards, how beat up you feel afterwards. There is absolutely nothing that I can do to cause injury.
Well, you and I talked about that with my knee because I was kind of concerned about, don't touch that because
Yeah.
it's healing still. You're like, well, let me just, I'm not going to do anything to hurt anything. Why don't you just let me look at it? And
Hmm.
so we did, and I'm so glad.
I sit there and hold your knee.
Yeah.
And the knee pain goes away.
When I think the whole tape thing, I was going
Yeah.
to a horse clinic and I was concerned about being able to manage all day.
Hmm.
And I was going to be riding more than I had
Yep.
because I really hadn't been riding the last 6 months because I'm doing therapy and trying to get stronger and all that. And not one twinge, not one hint of pain since that day or since.
Yeah. And you were even thinking about trying to wear a brace
Yeah,
for that clinic,
a
just
knee
trying to get
brace.
through it.
Yes.
And I knew because I ride that you needed a little bit more range of motion.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was when I offered to use the tape to support the knee, bring some more blood flow in to ultimately help heal the knee, but also to help you get through that clinic. And it went and did a lot more than I was expecting it to do, honestly.
It was amazing. It was wonderful because I was not without total pain that day. I stayed. My feet. I'm working up to the stamina, and I'm making huge progress. But
Mhm.
that day, I was on my feet way too long because I was focused on horses.
Oh yeah.
Horses, die. And I did get into a significant amount of pain for my feet that day because we
Mhm.
did a lot of groundwork. However, before seeing you, had I gotten to that level of pain, it would have taken me weeks at minimum to get over. I was walking around like a normal person 3 days after.
Yeah.
So that was another sign where, I wish I could say, okay, I'm in pain today. I come to you. Oh, look, everything's fixed tomorrow. No. But actually, that did happen in some body parts. But it's the progression and the progress. And I mean, everything else is good. It's
Mhm.
the progress on the feet. And, one of these days I'm going to be knocking on your door saying, look at me, I'm standing on cement for 5 minutes and it's not hurting. So
Well, that was even one of the things that you had texted me about after the clinic was that even though your feet hurt really bad, you were able to kind of maintain it so that you could finish the clinic
that is
without
true.
being in a lot of pain.
That is true. That is true. One of my
Mm.
sweet friends noticed I was having trouble, so brought me a little seat to sit on. Um, and then I took a short break and I was good for the rest of the day. I mean, I'm talking 5:30 to 8 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
and I hadn't done a clinic like that in a year.
Hmm.
So I was pretty jazzed. Once I realized that's another funny thing. It's like, okay, well, they're hurting. And it kind of made me take a break. But this is better than my feet have been in 13, 14 years.
Yeah. Would if you hadn't been able to manage it the way that you did,
Mm-hmm.
do you think you'd have been able to finish the clinic? Or would you have just kind of toughed it out and
Since I was driving the clinician, and I'm sure I would have had a lot of help. I would have just have to enlist help. I think I would have just stopped. I would have gotten on the horse and stopped my participation in the clinic.
okay.
I would have just gone and sat down and tried to see if the homeowner had some ice I can use, or um, and usually even with the ice, that only works for a little while, right?
Yeah.
And then I was driving and I was hauling.
Hmm.
So you can't tell your horse, I'm in a lot of pain. You're just going to have to stay in the trailer for a few days. I mean, you can't do that.
I don't know. Some horses you can't hardly get them out of the trailer.
Mine has a ways to go before and I did have a lot of wonderful help nearby. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't have been totally um, out of it. But yeah, that's an interesting question too.
Yeah. I wonder. It could have just kind of popped up because I was like, because you managed the pain really well.
Yeah, you're
Um,
right.
to the point that you even made the comment that you were like, yeah, it hurt a lot. I got into a significant amount of pain, but I was able to manage it for a few minutes and then able to go back and finish the clinic,
Yeah.
which was a really big thing for you when you texted me about it.
Yes, that's right. I forgot about that. Yes, I did.
You sent like all the little cartwheel emojis with your text message.
Yeah, that was huge. Absolutely huge.
Yeah.
Because it can be, when it gets to a certain pain level, it can be so distracting. You
Mhm.
can't even think, it just can be. And that's where I thought I was headed.
Yeah.
But I was
And
so,
working with horses, how safe is that to be completely distracted by pain while you're also trying to manage this 1,000-pound animal?
well, not at all. We were talking about, them being mirrors of
Mm-hmm.
what we're going through. And then my horse is having she didn't used to, but she has some reservations about getting in the trailer. And if I'm not relaxed and, making it a welcoming environment, if I'm in a lot of pain and, well, she doesn't know exactly what's going on. She just knows that I'm tense and I'm having struggles, then she's not really comfortable and fully confident to do what I'm asking her to do either.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, for anybody that doesn't know horses,
yeah.
horses are a perfect emotional mirror.
Yeah.
So if you go out to mess with your horse and you're stressed out or your brain is elsewhere, those horses' brains are also going to be elsewhere. And so it can be a very disastrous combination when you're not in the right frame of mind to work with a horse. You get to the point where sometimes you realize that, like, if you got into a fight with somebody and you're super stressed out or work was really bad that day, sometimes the horses, as therapeutic as they are not always the best decision because they'll turn around and go, ha, you had a bad day. Here's all my emotional problems too. Horses are wonderful.
Yes.
Um, okay, so what what would be something that if somebody was hesitant about starting myofascial release, if they know about it, but they're not sure if they want to pull the trigger on starting myofascial release, what would your suggestions be to them?
Well, I have that going on right now, as a matter of fact. Uh, One thinks she knows about it and she's doing it to herself, but she's still having issues and she hasn't been through training and everybody has different experiences. Um, I would start with what I've been telling people is just do it. Just schedule one session. You're the only one. The person that comes to you for help, they're the only ones that are really going to be able to tell for sure if it's going to help them or not.
Mhm.
Really, and then they're excited about it and they continue until they don't need it anymore, which is what I did. And the other thing is, like I did, just to call you. I was actually calling you all those months to put you off because I told you I was going to start X. Well, I can't do this because this happened, or this happened, or this happened. So that was really the reason I called you. But during the course of those conversations, you would give me a little bit more education and help me with what to expect. But even though I had that precursor, I was still pretty amazed at the first session.
Yeah.
I was amazed at your technique and your knowledge. It took me a little bit to know, oh, no wonder, because she has been through her own stuff. Um, I almost said, I'm delighted you've been through your own stuff. It turns out it's probably benefited me and many others, but I'm sorry you had to go through the pain.
I'm delighted I went through my own stuff.
Yes.
Where I'm at today.
Exactly. But those are the two main things: is call you and just have a conversation, and try it yourself. The other thing is that we've talked about before is your questionnaire is pretty intensive and pretty extensive, but it's very thorough. And I got the impression, in fact, I know that you didn't just ask all those questions to be invasive. You actually looked at, studied, considered, assessed, evaluated all of that input before you even saw me the first time.
Yep.
I have been in similar situations where you fill out all these personal questions and you get to the whatever doctor or specialist you're seeing, and they're asking you the same questions. I'm like, are you testing me? Are you, no, hadn't even looked at all the time I spent answering all your questions, So that just kind of, and it also makes you think when you're going through and answering all these questions. It gave me the opportunity to think about, okay, well, what's really going on? Because usually I'm just thinking about the one that rises to the surface. I can't walk today, that, for example, something like that. So those are probably the big ones, the big three, talk to you, go yourself, and go through the list of questions, which you probably do that right when you schedule, I think, right?
The intake form.
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually will send that out
Yeah.
before, like you said, before they ever get here. And
yeah,
that way I have time to kind of go through it and see what I need so I can kind of, one, so that I can actually be hands-on the first session and not have to spend the whole first session just talking to somebody. And two, so that I can know what my pinpoints are. And I can go, okay, these are what I want to get to first. Go from it that way. Obviously, because that was even one of the things that you had mentioned to me when you were talking about starting with me, was that you needed a couple months so that you could save up some money because it was an investment. You have somebody who's questioning that investment. Everything that you learned, everything that you experienced while working with me, did that investment pay for itself?
Oh, definitely. And it will continue paying. And I didn't really think about that. All I could see at first was the amount of money it was going to cost and I am going back to my insurance company. But as of today, I don't think they're going to help. But, the answer is no if you don't ask. So I'll be doing that. But so I knew I was going to be, paying for it out of my own pocket. And all I could see at first was, okay, here's the amount of money. Here's my budget. I'm on a fixed income now. Should I do this? And then I took a little walk down memory lane, and I bet you I have thousands of dollars invested in custom orthotics and different shoes and back cushions and doctors and drugs. And, you think about it like that, I tried all those things that didn't work. Now that's money, can't get back. But the prevention, what I hadn't considered in the first place, was prevention for future, expenditures on these problems that keep cropping up, or the same old problems, or, and when you're trying something new, normally that does take an investment, but, and I thought really after we get started, if I really didn't feel like it was helping, I could have said, okay, well, let's not go through the whole sessions. Let's just stop it and discuss it, and then, see what happens. But definitely it's worth every penny.
Yeah.
Every penny, I would say.
Good. I'm glad you got everything plus some.
And what's so interesting to me is, and everybody knows this, I think the traditional tried and true medicine, definitely has its place. Definitely it's needed. Definitely glad we have access to that. One day, the insurance companies that are struggling right now too, for whatever reason, they will realize the benefit that this can actually save them money too. Because if you're doing more prevention, then, and we're already starting to understand that as a country, with the nutrition, even though they maybe aren't right on the mark, but just the preventative measures saving all the medical cost that we're going through, I'm hoping eventually that will be, more integrated into our big bad system,
Yeah, I like to hope that we're moving that direction.
Yeah.
Definitely, I feel like definitely since COVID, a lot of things have started to people have gotten more aware of what their health is and how their health should be, and our medical system and the government and our food and everything. So I think it's coming around.
Yeah.
It's just taking it longer than some of us would like.
Yeah. Well, in COVID, before COVID, even chiropractic care, I was always against it until they helped me.
Mhm.
But I was always against it. And that never used to, I mean, they were looked at as quacks. And then all of a sudden they were helping with insurance. And then COVID happened. And that made people question, you know, do I really need this? Is this really helping me? You know, is my doctor the answer to everything? You know,
Yep.
and don't get me wrong, I still have doctors and trust them and go to see them, but I would definitely try you first before, deep diving into something. I mean, unless I had a broken something,
Yeah, unfortunately I can't fix you if
No,
your arm's broken.
no. I mean, it's not for every case, but definitely I'd do that before running into surgery or something like that.
Yeah. It's amazing how many times people will jump on the table for surgery and either they don't explore options or they just don't know that they're there. And that's why I'm here, is because I had a doctor that tried to push surgery and I didn't know this was here, but I just knew that 17, 18 years old, that I was too young to already start having a history of surgeries.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And that became literally like my life mission of, I want to try to push this as much as possible so that people don't have to have surgery as their only option, or they're not missing that one link that could have helped them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I share information with the regular doctors I go to. I share what's been helping too, in case they just don't know. They don't know what's out there if they don't look, and if it's not part of their educational curriculum.
Yeah,
So maybe that will help too.
that's all we can do.
Mhm.
But thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
I always love talking with you.
My pleasure.
But we'll go ahead and we'll wrap this up. I will put all of the information in links to the video, including our local food sources, at least for this area. Can't really help you outside of the Farmersville, Northeast Texas area, but I can at least get you guys started on a path. And from there, we just keep on rolling.